Okay, I've made myself a cup of tea. We're just gonna get straight into it. I swear to God, wherever I decide to sit and film a video like this, there's always building work going on right outside. Anyway, I think it's been about 3 months since I sat down and caught up with you guys, and to be honest, just life in general this year has been so all over the place. Like, from one week to the next, everything is different, and I actually really enjoy that, but I do know that sometimes it makes it quite hard to follow online. So I asked on Instagram, what do you want to know? Basically ask me anything. And I've screenshotted some, so we're gonna crack straight on with it. Firstly, how cute is this new top? It's like a corset style top from City Beach. Love it. Love them, to be honest. The general theme always when I ask for questions is, what are your onward plans? What are you doing? Where are you going next? All around that kind of thing. So I'm just gonna answer that first. You know that it's quite hard to follow. Trust me, I'm living it. And sometimes I don't know where I'm going. But currently we are living in Brisbane. We decided to spend like the month of July here, or like the majority of the month, for a few reasons, mainly to be honest because of the weather. We wanted to base ourselves in a city because it's usually easier to find accommodation, although it is also usually more expensive. But we picked Brisbane because at this time of year it is the peak of the Australian winter and Queensland have the best weather. We did consider going back to Melbourne, and like that would have worked, but the weather in Melbourne right now really is not it. Like, it's like a UK winter. It's very, very cold. And that does bring me on to the next question. That is where we are planning on going back to. So if you don't know, Tom and I are actually going to America at the beginning of August for like 2 weeks because I have Taylor Swift tickets to the end of her US leg of the Eras tour. That is so exciting, and it is a crazy plan, and I'm gonna go into that in more depth. There's some more Taylor Swift questions further on. When we get back from that, we are coming back to Australia. We're then gonna rebase ourselves back in Melbourne. We thought about this for a while, and there are still some more locations we want to travel to in Australia, but for the most part, basing ourselves in Melbourne just makes sense because we have like a support network there now. We know a lot of people in the city, and also both of the jobs that Tom and I had back in the beginning of the year, so like January, February, March, Tom and I were working like hospitality jobs. Those places have said that we can have those jobs back if we do go back to the city, which is super fortunate, and we're really, really grateful for that. So it does just mean we've got guaranteed work, and Tom especially, where he was working, that was like a full-time job, so obviously it's really ideal to not have to be job hunting. So we are going to be back in Melbourne at some point, not just yet, but yeah, that's a little rough update. I'm gonna go off an Australia question and do something else now. How do you and Tom stay sane being together all of the time? That is a good question. Tom and I don't really fight. Like, we bicker over a lot of things, but we never really like fall out. I think we've just got a really good balance of like, when I'm stressy and like getting a bit much, Tom is very good at calming me down, and I would say vice versa, but Tom's just very level-headed, very calm, very mellow. So it means that we travel together really well because he calms me down if I am getting like that. But similarly, we are both quite laid back. We're quite a laid back couple, and I think that that works in this setting. Like, for traveling, it means that we don't really fight. We also do spend a lot of time separately. So like, even though we are in the apartment together a lot, for a lot of the day, I'll be sat with headphones in working, Tom will be sat with headphones in. We're not like communicating all of the time. And I think it does help, especially like when we were in Melbourne, for example. There were times where we actually barely saw each other, like we were doing very separate things. So I think that having time apart is the main factor in keeping any relationship healthy. Like, you can't be together all of the time, it's actually too much. Which I think there were times we found that on the West Coast when we were like van life traveling. When you're living in a camper van, you are in each other's like confined space all the time, and like you don't get a break from it. So I think that was something we found on the West Coast, like that was quite a lot. Okay, I think I've answered this before, but I don't know if my answer has changed. Somebody said, are there any UK foods, drinks, shops, etc. that you really miss? This is such a good question. Tom's answer to this would be Greggs. Tom says, oh my god, I want a Greggs, like every single day. There's not a day that goes past that Tom doesn't say he wants a Greggs sausage roll. Personally, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What I'm really craving, and like what I want as soon as I'm back in the UK, is like a full Sunday dinner. Like just a roast dinner with everything on it, the best veggie roast dinner ever, because being vegetarian, it's really hard to go out to a pub and get like a good roast dinner. Yeah, I've yet to have one. I haven't had one since leaving the UK, so that would be amazing. Oh, and also I really miss going into the supermarket and buying everything in the supermarket. In Australia, I don't know how many people know this, but like they don't sell alcohol in the supermarkets. It's not legal here to sell the alcohol with the food. They have to have separate bottle shops and like wine shops, which is fine, but it's just convenient to be able to like go to the supermarket to buy a bottle of wine. But they're very picky things. Like there's nothing I really miss. There's nothing I'm craving. Somebody said, where are you originally from? That's actually really interesting because I forget that some people will have started watching along this journey. So if you don't know, I will pop a little map up. I'm from Beverley, which is a very small town in East Yorkshire in England. My go-to for when I'm in Oz and somebody asks me is, oh, I'm from Yorkshire. And then quite a lot of people haven't heard of Yorkshire. Like, don't get me wrong, other Brits obviously have, but if you meet an Aussie, quite often they're like, ah, where is it near? And my go-to is like Manchester, and they've heard of Manchester. Yeah, even though in the scale of the UK, I'm not from near Manchester, while I'm here, I'm from near Manchester. So there's a couple of like logistic questions here about moving to Oz. So if you're not planning on doing a working holiday visa, I'm gonna keep this very short, but I'll pop a timestamp on so you can skip this bit because this might not be for everybody. Packing advice after you've been there for a while. Have you worn everything that you have brought? Yes, I genuinely have. I think Australia having seasons means that I've worn everything that I brought from the UK, with the exception of a couple of things. Like I guess there's maybe a few going out tops that I brought that I've not worn, but then also I have bought quite a lot here as well, which isn't ideal. But I think if you live anywhere for a year, the chances are you're probably going to end up buying clothes. Maybe bring less going out stuff, maybe a couple more like thin long sleeved t-shirts because I only really have one of those. Best Oz phone sim, easiest way to use your phone out there. So Tom and I have been using Optus since we arrived in Australia, and that is purely just because that was the company that Welcome to Travel use. And when we did our first week here, we set up everything like this with Welcome to Travel. So my biggest advice, to be honest, if you're planning on doing a working holiday, is to spend your first 7 days in Australia on a Welcome to Travel tour, either in Melbourne or in Sydney, or on their East Coast tour, which is actually brand new and they've just launched it. This sounds very promo-y for them, but genuinely, this is the best way to do it. Like, I really don't think there is a better way because they set up your phone, they set up your bank account, they set up everything that you need, so like a tax file number to be employed here. They also show you around the city, and you also make a group of friends. Like, we are still in touch with quite a few of the people we met on the Welcome to Travel tour those first 7 days in Sydney. It just makes you feel more settled in the country. You can always chat to Welcome to Travel. Like, there's always people there to help you out. You can just message them, you can WhatsApp them, like, and I think that that's the best option. Like, genuinely, that is the best option. To answer the phone question, we have been using Optus. If I was to switch, I do think if you're working like regionally, like somewhere further out of the cities, Telstra might be better. It's just another phone network provider, but Optus has been fine for us. And the last one is Medicare sign-ups. How have you used the doctors there? So this is probably terrible, but Tom and I don't have Medicare, which is not for the want of trying. So Medicare basically is like cover. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know fully how this works, but it's basically if you're ill or you need a prescription or you need to see a doctor, you don't pay the full amount that you would if you didn't have it. Basically, it's just like another kind of insurance, but for people that are living here that aren't Australian citizens. We set this up the week we got to Australia, and it bounced straight back saying, oh, there's a major delay on all Medicare applications right now after the pandemic. Like, please bear with us. It should take 3 to 6 months, which was 9 months ago. And now I'm like, well, there's no point. What is the point? Luckily, we haven't had to go to the doctors for anything. Tom actually went to the dentist and just paid like the full price for the dentist here. That's kind of what would happen. If we needed to go to see a GP, we still can do that. We just have to pay the full price. And that's not the best advice, but there was just such a backlog when we got here. It was just crazy, like sorting everything out. Everything was on a go slow because of COVID. My next biggest question was, what are you wearing to the Eras tour? What are you planning to wear? I'm gonna be so annoying, but I'm gonna keep it a surprise. It's not even that exciting. Like, it is quite a basic Taylor Swift costume, and I think some of you could probably guess it. I only actually have one planned, and I am going to 2 nights in LA. Like, I don't even know how this happened, right? So I got closing night tickets on resale 6 months after the tickets went on sale. Like, the reason I actually got them in the first place was because she was already on tour and I was watching it on TikTok every day, and I was like, kind of want to be at the closing night as well. Like, I had booked tickets for the 8th of August, which is the second to last show, but I knew Tom and I were still going to be in LA on the 9th, and I was like, well, we're going to be there still, and I'm going to have FOMO because it's going to be closing night and I'm not going to be there. And I thought, well, you know what, it's how it was meant to be. That just was how the cookie crumbled. But I looked online anyway, and there were so many tickets being sold for just face value, and I was like, surely not. So I bought like back of the stadium tickets for actually really reasonably priced, in my opinion, for closing night 6 months after the ticket sale. And I was shocked. I did not think that was going to be possible. There were so many tickets for sale on this website. I sent a link to my friend. I was like, surely these aren't real, surely these are not legit. So I bought them, and then it bounced back and it did say you won't be charged until we can guarantee that you're going to get these tickets, right? So then I thought, oh, maybe this is a bit of a scam, maybe it's not legit. Anyway, 30 days before the closing night, I got an email from Ticketmaster being like, oh, these tickets have now been transferred to your account, and they're going into my Ticketmaster account, and there they are, literally just there with my name on. Like, the names had been switched because I bought them like through a legit resale website. It was so straightforward. I was so shocked. I thought it was going to be like near impossible. I mean, I haven't got into the stadium yet, so I don't want to jinx it, but I do have the tickets. I don't really know, I'm trusted the process, but I got very, very lucky. Anyway, the point of this whole story there was that I don't have an outfit for the second night yet. I've got 2 ideas. I do have one of them here with me, so I probably will go for that. My other idea, no, do you know what, I'm gonna save all of this for the vlog, because I'm gonna do an Eras tour vlog. I'm gonna do like the 2 nights in one video. It's just gonna be the best. It's just gonna be the best experience ever. I'm so excited. I can't wait, to be honest. It feels like a literal dream. When I think about it for too long, I start to get like all giddy and like a child on Christmas Eve. Okay, so there's some more questions about that, saying, where are you going in America? How long are you spending in America? Blah, blah, blah. So because we knew about this really far in advance, Tom and I have decided to make a bit of a trip out of it. Like, I didn't really want to fly all that way just to go to the concert and come back again, especially because I've never been to LA before, Tom's never been to LA before, I've never been to the west coast of America. So I was like, okay, let's make a trip out of this. Been to a few different places, not just LA, and we've booked some other tickets to some other things that I'm so excited about. Again, I'm not going to say too much because I am so excited for these vlogs, but there's a big part of the trip that I haven't even planned. Tom has planned it. I don't even really know what to expect for that bit of the trip, but you're just gonna have to wait and see in the vlogs. Somebody said, what is your ideal age to get engaged? I wouldn't usually answer because I've answered before, but it just made me laugh because when I opened Instagram just before this, I just saw that Molly May and Tommy have got engaged, and in my head I think of them as like 5 years older than me, but they are actually my age. They are the same age as me and Tom. The point I'm making is I just don't feel anywhere near old enough to get engaged. Like, I literally watched their video and I was like, oh, so cute. Like, that'll be me in a few years time. And then I'm thinking, no, it won't. To answer the question, I'd like to be married before I'm 30, I think. Like, if all being well, and Tom and I are obviously still together, I think by the time we're 30, Tom and I would have actually been together 14 years, which is ridiculous. But I try not to look at it like that. We got together very young, obviously is amazing, but shouldn't make us feel like we need to speed the process up. Like, I'm still only 23. I don't have any desire to like plan a wedding or have a wedding or anything like that. Like, that's just not interesting to me right now. Like, I would love to go to weddings. I want my friends to start getting married. I would love to go home to like engagements and like things like that, and I do think some of my friends are definitely at that stage, and that's amazing for them. I would love to like be there to support them and to do that and to like, you know, see it from the other side, but do it myself, absolutely no way. Also, it's so expensive. I just think, mate, if I was spending like 10, 20, 30 grand on a wedding, my brain, and I know Tom is the same, immediately would be like, imagine how much travel you could do with that money. Imagine how many countries you could see with that money. Imagine how many experiences you could have with that money. And I think for as long as that's my mindset, it's not the right time to get married. However, I guess that doesn't mean I couldn't get engaged. I don't know, maybe I'd like to have a long engagement. In the comments, what's your like ideal age to get married, if there is one? I feel like it's a weird thing to have an ideal age for, but then on the flip side of that, when I was younger, I wanted to be married and have kids by the time I was 24, and I'm 24 in 3 months. And I don't see any of that happening in the next 3 months. Okay, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent, I think. Do you plan on traveling New Zealand? Yes, definitely yes. That is the only thing I'm going to say right now, but it is in the plan. Will you be exploring Northern Territory at all? Again, yes. We want to travel all of the Australian states, so including Northern Territory, including Tasmania, and preferably maybe also including like Australian Capital Territory. We do want to visit Canberra just because we've spent a year here. I want to visit every state. That's my aim. Do you plan on living back in the UK in the future? Yes, to be honest, I think the longer we've been in Australia, the more that has solidified for me. I think if you'd have asked me a year ago, I would have been like, yeah, I want to stay in Australia forever. Long term, I don't think I'd want to be this far away from my friends and family. Like, I'm not sure if I'd want to live in the UK. What I'm saying is, if Australia was just a little bit nearer to home, I would probably stay. If I could. It's still not even that easy. You can't just stay. I think, like I was saying earlier, I do think my friends might start, like, I mean, probably not in the immediate future, but like there'll be like weddings, there'll be babies, there'll be things that I'm missing that you can't go home for. And I do think we've been quite fortunate this year because there's not really been any major events in either of our families we've missed, really. Like, there will be birthdays and there's a few things coming up at the end of the year where we aren't going to be there, but generally there's been nothing massive. But I think as soon as you start getting into, like, you know, people having children and people getting married, it's something you have to bear in mind. It's just something you have to think about, and for me, I'm not sure I'd want to be this far away forever. However, it's not to say we won't come back. I do kind of think we will end up coming back because Australia's kind of got me, I don't know, it just has some kind of pull over me, and it's powerful. I leave and I'm like, oh, but it would be nice to go back. Like, even when I was in Asia, I was so excited to travel around Asia and I loved it. Like, going back to Thailand this time really solidified in my mind that I think Tom and I do want to travel a bit more of Asia, the bits that we've not done. I really want to travel Japan. I really want to go to Laos, and I think I wouldn't mind spending like a prolonged amount of time in Thailand. Like, even when I was there towards the end, I was like, oh, it would be quite nice to be back in Australia because it feels kind of like home. Like, I think part of it is the ease and the convenience of Australia being like an English speaking country, and sometimes you feel a bit out of your depth in Asia. There's a language barrier, the culture is very different. There were times where I was like, oh, it'll be easier when we're back in Australia, and I was thinking, whoa, that's really bizarre. Like, I've been gone 2 weeks, calm down. So I do worry that I'd get back to the UK and about a week later I'd be like, so when am I going back? Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more. I'm gonna do a deep one and then I'm gonna end on one that just kind of made me laugh. So I've wanted to chat about this for a while. Somebody said, how do you deal with emetophobia whilst traveling? And this is a really good one because I think that this is something that I think is unique to me, but in actuality affects so many people and is actually quite common, more common than I realised that it was, especially growing up. So if you don't know, emetophobia is the fear of sick and being sick, and this is something I struggled with massively growing up. Like, I will say, and I'm going to be honest now, I've definitely sort of overcome this with age just without doing anything, which I think is just very lucky, and it's something that I've maybe grown out of a tiny bit, which I'm very, very grateful for because it can dictate your life. And I remember my life being like that, and I know that that's such a real thing. And I definitely think there's still things in me where it like brings that back or like kind of triggers how I used to feel. I don't really know how I've done it, but I've sort of compartmentalized the different kinds of illnesses, and this is a little bit weird. For me, this is how it's worked traveling. So and this definitely is not how everybody deals with this. Like I say, everybody is different. For me, I've managed to put into one box, if people are being sick around me from being drunk or drinking, I'm not, like, I still don't want to be near you, and I'm probably not going to help you with it, but it's okay because I'm not going to catch that. I'm not going to be ill from it. That was kind of self-inflicted. Similarly, I have been sick from drinking before, and while I really hate it and it really does bother me and I'll be like crying, anxiety, like, to be honest, this very rarely happens because I never let myself drink that much because of this. So I feel like there's been, once I did just drink too much, that was my own fault. Once, and this is maybe a story for a different vlog, but when I was in the Philippines I actually got spiked. I've never been so violently unwell from drinking, and that really wasn't my fault. I'm 99% sure I was spiked. Obviously I don't know, but I think that I was. Didn't vlog that whole like 48 hours because I was not well. Maybe that's a story for another day. Let me know if you kind of want me to go into untold travel stories. But I try really hard to not let myself get like that. And what I'm saying is I can compartmentalize it because I'm not ill. And I don't really know how that works, but in my head, my emetophobia and my like anxiety with that definitely stems more from like being ill and like having a sickness bug or just being sick. Another thing whilst traveling that I think is helpful is a big one that people speak about a lot is food poisoning and barley belly and getting ill from the food. So I went vegetarian in 2021, and one of the main reasons that I'm vegetarian is because I don't want to get food poisoning. Growing up, I very rarely ate meat because of this. Like, I would go out and order off the veggie menu because I didn't trust places to cook me meat, which is ridiculous. And like I say, this is it's a psychological thing, because I'd never actually had a bad experience. Like, I've never been anywhere and had food poisoning. Yeah, and then during the lockdown, I stopped eating meat entirely, even at home. That was more just to see if I could do it. It was like a lockdown thing, you know, a phase. And then when lockdown ended, I was like, well, I'm not gonna go back. I've been doing it for like 6 months now. That really helped with Asia, because when people were getting like dodgy tummies, it was usually from meat, and I hadn't had any meat. Obviously, you can get food poisoning from foods not being cooked properly, foods not being washed properly, and I definitely did experience things like that in Bali and all across Asia actually, but I was never sick from it. It was more just like bad stomach aches, other stomach problems, if you get my drift, but I was never sick from it. And I do think that maybe I've sort of just trained my body to not be sick, but also like I think a really big part of this for me is like having my own things that work and my own coping mechanisms and my own like little things that I can do myself to try and make sure that I'm not ill. And this is ridiculous, but there's so many things. Like 9 times out of 10, if you've seen me in and around a boat setting, I will have taken travel sickness tablets, I will have taken anti-nausea tablets, I will probably be carrying a packet of ginger biscuits, I will probably only eat biscuits for that whole day. Like, you know, not great habits, but also habits that work. I've spoken about this a lot in vlogs as well, but like my mindset and my mentality is, there are so many things that scare me, there are so many things that make me nervous. My friends will admit it if they've been around me. I'm the kind of person that's like scared of roller coasters, scared of water sports, scared of like most things. I'm the kind of person that's like, oh, I'm not sure, oh, I don't know, like maybe I'll just stay with the bags, maybe I'll just like sit this one out. I think it got to a point where I was just looking at myself and I was like, but why? Like, why am I being like that? I don't need to be like that. And I think it was doing this job ultimately that forced me to stop being like that, because I would get opportunities presented to me and I'd be like, oh no, I can't do that, I shouldn't do that. And I think that then I realized you're passing by so many amazing things, you have to push your comfort zone to the point where you're so uncomfortable, but afterwards you're going to be like, I'm so glad I did that. And if you're not, that's fine, you've tried it, you've pushed maybe too far, that really isn't for you. But there are so many things where I think if it scares you, do it anyway. If it pushes your boundaries, do it anyway, like within reason. But yeah, I think that that's my whole life mantra. Like, I'm so nervous to do most things the first time, but I think you have to push past the nerves, because otherwise you're never gonna try anything new. And that mentality, I think, is what's helped me with my emetophobia whilst traveling, because I know that overall the experience that I'm having will be worth it. So even if the worst thing happened, my attitude now is like, it's only going to be bad for so long. You're going to be on the other side of it eventually. It's not going to be bad forever. Even if you had the worst 24 hours ahead of you, once you're beyond that, you're not going to have that again. You've already lived it. So if you can just get through it, just power through it, just push the boundary, the overall experience is going to be worth it. And I think, to be honest, what helps is that this is an experience and a lifestyle that I wanted so badly, like, you know, thought about, dreamt about, manifested for like years, that all of that was like more of an overwhelming desire than the fear of having emetophobia. However, I'm also super aware that that won't work for everybody, and I really do think that there are different routes and different paths for everybody. I'm saying this as if it's just easy to do, and I know that it isn't, because I also think that with time I just kind of not grew out of it, but it just got less intense over time compared to when I was younger. Like, it just did, and that was just luck. I mean, I don't know what I did, but something obviously changed. So I do know that it's not as straightforward as that, and I obviously do recommend, like, you know, there's different therapies that you could try. I was gonna say exposure therapy, definitely probably not the best one to go down first, but like, you know, there's all sorts of different therapies that can help you train the way you think about certain situations and like certain things, and that's definitely a route to go down if this feels like too much of a barrier to be able to do the traveling or to be able to do whatever it is that it's stopping you from doing. If it feels like it's too much, I definitely think that that's the route to go down, because I can't just sit here and go, I'll do it anyway. I'll do it anyway, but like, I'm aware that doesn't work for everything. Okay, I do think that my camera is about to die because it's flashing red, but I'm gonna answer one more because I really enjoyed this question and it just made me feel really nostalgic. But they asked, what is your favorite YouTube video that you've ever made? And instantly I knew the answer. I didn't even have to think about it. It is this one. It is my UK's longest road trip that I filmed with my brother, where we went from Land's End to John O'Groats, because everything about that video, from the planning, the organisation, the filming, the editing, I just enjoyed it so much, and I watched it back just to see if it still hit the same. And although watching any of my own videos cringes me out and like did give myself the ick, I am still really proud of that and I really enjoyed filming it. So if you've not seen it, that's probably the best video I've ever uploaded on my YouTube channel. I would love to know what your answer to that is. I think we'll end with this one. I want you guys to comment down below, is there like a standout video of mine that you can think of that you've watched over the years or in the last few months and you're like, that's my favourite video? Like, anyway, I'm gonna end this here because my camera is flashing and it is gonna die. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you feel up to date and up to speed. I feel like I've just waffled for like 40 minutes, but hopefully it's been a nice chat. Hopefully you got yourself a cup of tea to watch it with, and I shall see you guys in my next one, which will be up on the weekend. So subscribe so that you don't miss it, and yeah, I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.